Welcome back to the channel. My name is Brad, and today we're going to just have a little sweet tea. Yes, sweet tea time. So, news of the week, I guess I'll just throw it out. It's just another wonderful week at YouTube. Always a little controversy, and I think it's a lot of miscommunication between content creators and their journey and my journey, and it's just a bunch of miscommunication. We'll just throw that out. I mean, it's one thing to watch a video and think that's what the person's really trying to drive at or poke at, but we all have different styles of investing. Every one of us. And it's got to be coming across to everybody that my style may not be somebody else's style. Their style may not be my style. And that's where the arguments come in. Because a lot of people get on and they get personal about their style. And if you don't believe in their style, then you're absolutely 100% wrong. And that's part of the issue. We should all be respectful, including myself in this, to each other's style. And that's where the problem lies, is people come on and they don't like my style, and that's fine. But you don't have to try to convince me that their style is better than my style, because are you a financial advisor? I don't think you are. And even some of the financial advisors that have actually made comments, it's like, yeah, you do you and I do me. And that's the way it is. And if you don't like my style, then you don't have to beat me up about it. But at the same time, I don't need to beat other people up about their style. And that's where some of the miscommunication comes across. And I'll apologize to anybody that I think that, maybe I have stepped across the line. I'm a grown-up. And that's being the grown-up way. You recognize that you may have offended somebody because, you didn't agree with their style. And trust me, I have purposely avoided two funds on this channel. Absolutely, I will never, ever review. I will just go out and I'm not going to name them. I will never review them, because as soon as I do, I'm wrong. There is no way around me getting past I'm wrong. So why review them if all I'm going to hear in 50% of the comments is I'm wrong? And I'm going to have to start telling people I will not review these funds, just because I know that it doesn't fit my style of investing, and it might fit their style of investing. And I should not pick on their style of investing, because that's them and this is me. And just because I do it one way and they do it a different way, doesn't matter. So I am not going to review Cornerstone. Period. That right there. I'm on this name one. I will not review Cornerstone because I don't believe in them. You might. And that's totally okay. But if I review them, 50% of the people will tell me I'm wrong. Fine, I'm wrong. I'm retired. Are you retired? I have money. Do you have money? Don't get personal about finance. And that's hard. It really is hard. That's the hard part. And this is just Brad being brutally honest. That's the hard part. Personal finance is tough to talk about to anybody. That's why we avoid talking about it with our kids. I have not. I have talked to my daughter about personal finance. And I encourage every parent to talk to their children about personal finance. it does you no good as a parent not to talk to personal finance. And yes, I'm, cheeky, but this is just Brad. And Brad believes in total return. Total return minus my 8%. You take the two. Total return and total return minus 8%. That is exactly how my Excel spreadsheet is set up. I think I've been very clear about that from the beginning. Total return minus my 8%, excluding NAV. And that's where all the arguments come in. Because I'll just throw this out. Let's do another conversation. I give you $1, and every month you give me 75 cents. But now my account is only worth 75 cents. So I lost 25 cents. So my total's really 150. Or you can get a quarter, but you have $1. What people want is, oh, no, we want that 75 cents and keep the $1. Well, unfortunately, some of these funds aren't set that way. They're just not set that way. And people get upset because they're not set that way. And personally, I'm okay knowing going in, I'm going to get 75 cents and I have 75 cents. Steven is okay with that. I'm okay with that. Others are not. And that's their personal preference. And there is funds. There was this whole thing about Roundhill. I still will not say what they're going to do out loud, but they're not going to have NAV erosion based on the calls, at least from the information that I now have. So I don't want everybody to be frustrated over that section, because I don't think that they will. I think the way that they're going to do it, good or bad, is not going to cause you an aversion. So technically, Brad was wrong, and I admit to it. Others were right. But at the same time, if the NASDAQ or the S&P 500 goes down, your NAV is going to go down. There's no way ifs, runs, or but about it. It's going to follow the exchange. And that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense. If that doesn't make sense to you, you're definitely watching all the wrong channels. Because that should be basic 101 for everybody. That if the exchange goes down, your NAV is going to go down. But at the same time, if your exchange goes up, your NAV should go up. And that's where we get into some of the controversy with YieldMax. I'm not going to go down that road. The mechanics, I'll just say the mechanics of YieldMax. It's not just the distributions. It's not just the premiums that you're getting due to their calls. There's other premiums in there, and it gets glossed over. It just does. Somebody will say it, but they won't connect the dots. And that's where your problem lies. Personal opinion, this is Brad's personal opinion. Not anybody else's opinion, Brad's personal opinion. They are a total return organization, and you can say total return minus your 8%. If you have a different style, there's always going to be some NAV erosion. And by the way, at the end of today's whole video, I'm going to show you one of the slides I sent to Defiance and to Jay. And Jay has ghosted me ever since I sent it to him. And Defiance canceled their call with me the day right before. They must have looked at the slide and said, oh, we're not answering that question. And I was only trying to get answers for the viewers. And again, that'll be at the end. But let's talk about YouTube. Hey, moving on. Oh, computer went down on me. Oh, how about that? So, Brad, YouTube, you can see the incline, nice and steady. And I had a great boost at the beginning. Right? I'll always give Oracle the benefit of he gave me a huge boost at the beginning, and I will always remember that, always. So we may disagree about stuff, and what we should do, and this me maybe speaking, we should disagree about it off screen, not on screen, because it doesn't do us either one any good. But anyway, I think we got past that. I really do love Oracle. It's got great style. I mean, just a little rough. And I'm just calling it as it is. He might not like me calling him rough, but hopefully he realizes he's a little rough. I have respect for the man, and I should always remember that. And sometimes somebody needs to just say, "Hey," and I will, take a step back. And again, moving past that, 44 subscribers with a nice boost from Oracle at the beginning. You can see how the channel's grown, and I greatly appreciate it. Now, I came out with memberships because the only reason is I give away that Excel spreadsheet that I use, and if I have 25,000 distinct viewers, you can see me being a technical support manager for that Excel spreadsheet, and it's just small group, 100%. And they get all these slides. That's another benefit. You get all the slides, and I'm putting technical resources. So when I do a presentation, they get the Excel spreadsheet, they get all the technical literature, they can go back and do the research later. I put it in a Google file so they can go have access to all the Google files. So they can have literally the access to all the research that I did, and they don't have to go looking. And one thing I'm going to do is even put a sheet in there with all the links to all the resources. So I'm trying to give additional resources to those that want to, pay for the administrative costs, really, basically. So I've always said, hey, I'm not going to reinvest back into equities until it breaks the 50-day moving average. Right now, SPY is not breaking the 50-day moving average, which is the top green line. If we look historically, we can see where Brad would have been reinvesting back into equities. I'm fully vested in the equities that I have now. I'm fully vested. And somebody did call me out the other day and say, do you really take 8%? And the answer is, currently, I'm right about 5%. That's all I need to live on. So I want to be able to live on 8%, but right now it's about 5%. So it's plus or minus. I'm planning on 8%. If I go vacation in Europe or something like that, I'm going to need a little extra money. So you got to play that out and always have that little bit of buffer. But right now, I'm right about 5%. So one thing we should talk about is inflation costs and adjustment housing index. You can just see how it has skyrocketed over the years. And housing is really becoming unaffordable for younger. Baby boomers have 50% of their equity in their house. And that's a real issue, because as they die off, their equity gets transferred to their kids, and you can see how this housing is an issue for younger people. So I really feel their pain. I personally will probably not own a house anytime soon. And that's just me. I had a big house, and the personal property taxes were literally like, what? And you got to plan for that. And that's why I domicile in a different state that doesn't pay state income tax, and I don't own a house. There's certain rules that I have to follow by doing this, but they're not that complicated. But it allows me financial freedom without getting the jab of the tax man. Because I'm just living within my means and keeping away the tax man as best as I can. I still have to pay taxes. Let's face it. I still have to pay taxes as much as the next person. Now, one thing about inflation, and this is important to understand, is Argentina used to have 25% inflation. That is just crazy type of inflation. But how did they get it down so quickly? And that is due to the new president coming in and cutting public services, cutting the wasteful government spending. Will we see something like this? I don't know. I'm just showing you what Argentina did. That's all. No guessing hat on that one, but hopefully, because the prediction right now is hyperinflation in the coming future, and if we don't do something drastic to cut that inflation, it's just going to catch up to us. U.S. dollar purchasing power. You just can't make this stuff up. You look at 1913 and what you can get for $1 and what you get for $1 today, and you can just see it continue to decline. That is the way it is. And by the way, that's why you should have maybe a little Bitcoin. But that's a whole different story. We'll talk a little bit more about that. That's a hedge against what's going on. Next one is hey, are we having a soft landing? Is the soft landing completed? And Brad's, again, personal opinion is we're not out of the woods yet. We may see the light, but we're not out of the woods, right? GDP growth has been great, and that is going to hopefully keep us out of recession. But we have not gotten inflation and the soft landing completed yet. And two points of view. Trump is going to tear it apart. Trump is going to inflate it. Not going to speculate which way it goes, because it could go either way. And you just have to be prepared for it as an investor or a retired person. Just keep that in mind. So we're going to do two ratios. Gold to oil, and you can see that we're starting to creep up. Gold to oil. And then we take Bitcoin to gold. And again, you can see that we're getting close to all-time highs in those ratios. It's just, it is what it is. And you look back and go, is Bitcoin the hedge? I don't know. I say yes. Others say no. You do you. I do me. And we all just be respectful. Again, that's that personal finance issue. Again, personal finances are personal. And it's hard to talk about. Honestly, it's hard to talk about, and that's where we get into hurt feelings. But anyway, Seeking Alpha has Alpha Picks, and I do not subscribe to it. I have a little much, but right now, since they started it, they're up 172% against the S&P 500 at 57%. You just take those two numbers and scratch your head. There's a bunch of things that go into it. Unfortunately, I can only share a couple stocks every 3 months after they pick them. But let's just say if you're well off and you really want to try to grow, this might be something for you to look into. Just saying. If we take the S&P 500 and we compare it to everybody else, and that's that MSCI, that's outside of the United States, you can see we jumped and they dropped at the election. That's what's happened, because supposedly, and this is just supposedly, the new president coming in is going to be focused on domestic and not overseas. Right, wrong, and different. I'm not going to go down that road. That is what appears to be the agenda. If we look at the indexes, the U.S. sectors, consumer discretionary had its best month in a long time. That is something to be thinking about. Discretionary is doing well. Energy Energy's done well-ish the whole entire year, right? The same thing for utilities. They've done well, and it's just something to think about, energy and utilities, because I do have infrastructure and utilities. And I base that on they do well usually during a downturn. It's a function. So I hold it, and they pay me close to that 8%, 7%. If you combine them all together, I get well past my 8%. If you take them individually, I'm tight on a couple of them, but hey, I want that exposure just in case there's a downturn, because usually those utilities and infrastructure do well. So mid-cap growth, small-cap growth, what I can say is small-cap growth had its best month so far this year is small-cap growth. And that is strictly based on the new president coming in and rate cuts. Because I've said this before, as the Fed cuts rates, small cap growth becomes more profitable. And that's something to do with the CLO actually structure, but that's a totally different story. As those rates come down, small companies become more profitable, generally speaking. To go one step farther, you can see the peak of the stocks. This is the Russell 2000 weekly performance, and they're having the best week in a long time. Really having the best week in a long time. And again, will this continue going forward? I don't know. But it's something to think about. If you're not having something allocated to the Russell, because I have stuff allocated to the Russell. I use the NEOS fund, and we just went that direction. I want a little bit of exposure. And that's probably, the Russell's probably my smallest exposure in equities to the market. Cryptocurrency, looking at total market cap, and this is on the 15th. Bitcoin is up there. Ethereum is starting to climb again, but not at all-time highs. But look at all the other cryptocurrencies. They're going up. Now, is it 6 months? Are we going to see the Santa rally? And that's what something we should discuss also is, are we going to have, between now and Christmas, we probably have a little sell-off because people are taking profits and hedge funds want to get their bonuses in. Hey, come on. It's all about those guys. And then they go rushing out around Christmas time and buy things up again because they made their profits for the following year. I mean, there's a whole thing called Santa's rally, and maybe it plays out, maybe it won't. Who knows? I don't get caught up in it because I don't try. If I do, it's a very small portion. I speculate with a very small portion just because it's fun. But I don't speculate my retirement that way. CPI, and this goes back to the indicator. Housing is sticky. They're very shelter on the chart. Shelter is sticky, and there's no denying, there's no change in it, and that is going to be an issue going forward. Now, yes, shelter uses an index that's a lagging and not forward-looking. Yes, but time has been ticking along and shelter is not coming down, and that's going to probably prohibit CPI hitting that 2% because housing is so high and it's sticky. Lastly, let's talk about Defiance J. Sylvia was going to come on the channel, and I hit him up about IWMY. I actually hit him up about every single one of their funds, just questioning everything. But I took in the 1 to 3 stock split. I presented this to him and said, hey, look, your distributions went from 81% to 53% once you went weekly and after the splits. And the split and weekly happened very simultaneously, very close to each other. But there was a 34% average drop in distribution after the split. So it's not the split. It's not fully the split that hurt you. Something mechanically changed within the fund. I was just pointing it out to them. They have decided for now not to come in and answer what mechanically changed when they went to weekly instead of monthly, and after the reverse split. I think there's a lot of reasoning behind it, but they should be communicating this to us, not me communicating it to you, because I'm only speculating what it could be. They can tell us what happened. The numbers are the numbers. I literally I corrected for the stock splits and just went, here's the distributions per the same shares. You can see that you are down 35%. What happened? So I also question that a little bit with SPY T. They're getting that 10 pips a day and they win on the down days, but there's something there that they're not fully disclosing, and nobody has dug in and questioned them deep enough on it. And by the way, they reached out to me. I did not reach out to them. So they decided day before, cancel the call, and they haven't emailed me yet with any response of, hey, let's get together 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month out. Nothing. All right, I can see it being after Thanksgiving. I can understand that. But there's been no communication. And Jay, I sent this to him. Again, nothing. He dropped off the face of the earth because I didn't think that he wants to discuss what happened. But something happened. And I think a lot of people have noticed something's happened. But you're not getting the answers that you should get the answers to. Personal opinion. Maybe some people know. Maybe somebody can put down below what happened. I'm just asking, what happened? Because there's that other fund that they have on oil. That was the first slide. What is this fund? And why do you even have it? Was literally how I was starting the conversation. Because that fund, I don't get it. I just don't get that one. In the money puts, short puts. It's just like, what are you doing? You're only going to go negative on this. There's no upside potential here. So, again, I was just trying to get information, and you guys should have heard the information, but they're not giving the information. I do have an interview this week coming up. I do have somebody that's willing to come on the channel. We have talked in the past. He's a nice guy, and I'll drill him, but I actually believe in his fund. I got to be a little bit nice to the guy, but I think he already knows a lot of my questions because he answered them when we first talked. I want you to hear his story, because I think when you hear his story and his background and where he comes from and my questions to him, because there's certain things that you and I both want to know, I think you might like him, you might not. And maybe there's not enough data on it. Who knows? But anyway, hey, that's the sweet tea for this week. Again, hopefully you got some nuggets out of this. Brad is staying put at the apartment until March for the RV. I went to the RV yesterday, if you cared. RV looks good. Did a little work on it. Changed the screen door out and everything. Getting ready for the beach coming up in March. And hopefully things go well. Until next time, God bless.